There he is.
Welcome to the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative Community Information fourth and final session in our initial webinar series. Tonight, we will focus on the pathway-focused mathematics concepts, typically for students in grades 11 and 12. My name is Michelle Vinnie, and I'm the secondary mathematics teacher specialist for Hampton City Schools. I have previously taught mathematics for 12 years at the middle and high school levels to include 7th grade math, pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, and algebra 2. I am currently serving as a member of the VMPI Communications Committee. I am joined tonight by Brian Nussbaum.
Hi, I'm Brian Nussbaum, and I'm a 20-year mathematics educator and currently serving in the role of secondary mathematics coordinator for the Harrisonburg City Schools. I've taught grades 6 through high school as well as college level courses. These past 2 years, I've been working to help lead the planning for these pathway-focused mathematics concepts. Additionally, Michelle and I are joined tonight by Tina Mazzacane and Brendan Albin from the Virginia Department of Education.
This webinar session is being live streamed. We welcome your questions and feedback as we progress through this presentation, so please use the QR code or tinyURL webpage link to electronically make your submission. Brian and I, along with some of our VMPI and VDOE team members, will be reviewing those questions as the session progresses. At the end of our presentation, we will try to identify some common questions that can be addressed. We are excited to be able to hear your feedback and questions regarding the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative. Even though we may not be able to answer every question posed during tonight's webinar, know that these sessions will be used to inform the work of the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative team as the initiative progresses. Shown on the screen is the agenda for our session tonight. First, we will discuss what the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative is. Then we will discuss why there is a need to change the pathways to ensure students develop a solid mathematics foundation to be prepared for post-secondary careers. Lastly, we will explain in detail the pathway-focused mathematics concepts for students in grades 11 through 12.
Good evening, everyone. So we would like to begin by sharing some information about the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative, how it got to where it is and where it is exactly. In 2016, the Virginia General Assembly charged the Virginia Department of Education to establish multiple pathways in mathematics learning. So VMPI is a joint initiative between the Virginia Department of Education, State Council of Higher Education in Virginia, and the Virginia Community College System. The VMPI team includes representatives from each of these organizations in order to collaborate in making this initiative successful. The proposal team is also made up of teachers and mathematics specialists and supervisors from all around the Commonwealth. We hope that folks see that the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative is in its building phase, and the team are developing the components based on feedback from stakeholders and are making adjustments so that once the initiative is brought before the Board of Education in 2022, all possible considerations will have been taken into account. So as you can see, we have had many forums with multiple stakeholders to participate in the building process of VMPI. These opportunities will continue to be provided before even being presented to the Board of Education for their public review. The goals of the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative are that VMPI is in the process of identifying K-12 mathematics pathways that support future success into college and career pathways. We seek to empower students to be active participants in a quantitative world. We believe that math literacy is an important tool for Virginians. We hope to encourage students to see themselves as knowers and doers of mathematics. We hope to improve access to advanced mathematics learning opportunities for all students in Virginia classrooms, regardless of school or setting. We have already begun collaborating with multiple stakeholders to advance mathematics education in Virginia. VMPI aims to modernize and update mathematics instruction to Virginia's K-12 mathematics standards to align with the essential knowledge and skills students will need to succeed in a global economy that they will inhabit. The Code of Virginia requires that every 7 years we revise instructional standards. Since mathematics is regularly scheduled for 2023, the VMPI implementation would fall within that timeline. Please also remember that the VMPI proposals and changes won't be brought to the Board of Education for initiative consideration until the revision process begins in 2022. Any changes wouldn't be implemented until the 2025-2026 school year, where the new pathways will become evident in school. So the essential concepts within VMPI are being designed to blend core mathematics concepts, which are currently taught in grade 8, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, to create a more connected mathematics experience needed in the 21st century world. VMPI aims to provide additional rigorous course-taking options before graduating high school, to better prepare all students for post-secondary aspirations. The VMPI proposal is seeking to develop changes that will benefit all students, regardless of their mathematics learning pathways, by providing standards that support high-quality, highly relevant mathematics instruction. The Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative envisions a modernized pathway for students to progress through mathematics that allows for a sequential development of foundational and essential core concepts on which to build more complex mathematics learning. Concepts are connected and sequenced so that students are able to experience deeper mathematics understanding by seeing how mathematical concepts are related to one another and to the world in which they live. Students would sequence through a core set of foundational concepts, beginning in kindergarten and extending through and into middle school. Students would then learn the core set of essential concepts in middle and early high school that would lay the foundation for more specialized mathematics learning in later high school. Please note that the foundational mathematics concepts will address the core concepts that are currently taught in grades K through 7 mathematics learning, standards of learning. The standards will be revised for courses in K7 and will include all of the concepts shown inside the red box, being number and number sense, computation estimation, measurements and geometry, probability and statistics, and patterns, functions, and algebra. The proposed essential mathematics concepts will address all of the core concepts that are currently taught in grade 8, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 mathematics standards of learning. These standards will be revised and created for courses in Essential Concepts 1, 2, and 3, which will also include the following concepts: data analysis, mathematical modeling, functions in algebra, spatial reasoning, and probability. So, as mentioned, all of the current 2016 mathematics standards of learning will be updated and reorganized across K through 12 via the 2023 standards review process. Core content from the existing standards of learning from grade 8, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 will be updated and reorganized to create 3 new courses, being Essential Concepts 1, 2, and 3. Additional content to support data literacy and mathematics modernization would also be included in the Essential Concepts 1, 2, and 3 courses. As always, school divisions may build courses from standards that may be offered to students at any grade level according to their learning needs. Tina.
Thanks, Dr. Albin. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Brian. We're very excited to be here tonight to talk more about some of these pathway-focused concepts that are going to lead to some high school course options, some of which we've not had before, so we're super excited about that. As you can see on the screen, in the plan developed by VMPI, the mathematics courses that many students will take during the last several years of high school will be composed of either half-credit courses or one-credit course options. And you'll see that school divisions will develop those local courses to implement those state standards. On the next slide, we wanted to show you just kind of a comparison. And currently in high school, divisions can offer the mathematics courses that you see listed under the 2016 standards of learning. Typically, these are the courses that are taken after Algebra 2. The standards are designed to support either a semester or a full year course. You'll see that in the red parentheses in the red text next to each of the names of those standards. But the Virginia Math Pathways Initiative is revising some of these existing standards. So you'll see, like we'll still see probability and statistics. Trigonometry will be called trigonometric applications. Mathematical analysis will become a pre-calculus course, but you still can see some of those courses still existing. But there'll also be some newly created sets of standards to support divisions in offering additional courses. And you see those on the slide under 2023 highlighted in the blue. These courses would typically be taken after the Essential Concepts 1, 2, and 3 courses that Dr. Albin explained just previously. So our presentation today is going to take some time to discuss some of these courses and how they can support varied, rigorous math pathways in a little bit more detail. But we wanted to talk to you just a little bit further about some additional information and just some of the potential pathways for some students. So note that on this slide, this is a potential pathway for some students, which provides some opportunities to reach rigorous advanced coursework that's aligned with student interests, their personal goals, or just their post-secondary aspirations, and could also include calculus and other current offerings. School divisions can still create courses and course names as they see fit to ensure that they reflect the content from Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry, and any of the new data analysis concepts and standards that are going to be weaved in. Note that some of the courses are semester courses indicated by the 1/2 notation. And these pathways focused courses can be chosen and would be appropriate for students who might be interested in things like engineering, calculus, design, or other post-secondary options. So students could select these courses as elective courses, or they might just want to take more above and beyond their required mathematics courses for graduation. So the next slide talks a little bit more about a potential pathway for acceleration. So this slide shows one of many different potential pathways. School divisions, of course, have the option of developing programs that accelerate students in different ways. So nothing in this sample precludes a school division from creating other courses or sections such as honors or advanced courses aligned to our standards, as has always been the case. These pathways that you see on this screen are focused courses that might be chosen or appropriate for students that also might be interested in calculus, design, or other post-secondary options. So as you look at the boxes, you'd see that for this particular pathway, students would progress through what we're calling foundational concepts in grades K through 5. Moving into grades 6 through 7, they would address the foundational concepts in grades 6 and 7 and maybe more of a compacted sort of curriculum, moving into Essential Concepts 1 in grade 7, and then taking the Essential Concepts 2 and 3 courses in grades 8 and 9. So they could earn 2 math credits in the earlier grades 8 and 9, and then they would have the option of actually taking 3 additional math credits in grades 10 through 12. And so each of those green boxes just shows some possible alternatives. So a student might want to take a half credit of data science and math modeling, then a whole credit of quantitative reasoning, and then maybe an AP statistics course. That could be one pathway a student might choose. Or they might take pre-calculus and then AP calculus, and then maybe AP statistics or some other international baccalaureate or dual enrollment offering. Or as another option, as a different pathway, a student might take a trig applications and geometry and design course to make up a credit, and then financial modeling and math modeling, and then follow up with a quantitative reasoning course. So these options are selected by students based upon their interests and their post-secondary aspirations. So on the next slide, we show just a tentative timeline. So during the current school year, VMPI teams have been developing a draft set of essential concepts, like Dr. Albin described earlier, upon which we're going to build standards that will be aimed to be taught typically in grades 8, 9, and 10. But as you see, there's other options, of course, that would be available. The official process for revising the Virginia Math Standards of Learning will begin in 2022. You can see that there's a draft set of revised math standards that would not be presented to the Board of Education until 2022-2023 school year. Then there's plenty of time for public review. There's a process that's put forward by our policies. So the Board of Education would have to vote after public review has proceeded, with an approval process in fall of 2023 is typically when that would be scheduled. Then we'd have a crosswalk year that would ensue in 2024, 2025, with full implementation scheduled for 2025, 2026. So I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. She's going to talk in a little bit more detail about the Mathematics Pathways courses and what those might entail.
Thank you, Tina. So why create pathway-focused mathematics concepts? We are moving from a narrow focus to a more expanded focus in mathematics. In our current system, as shown in the pine tree on the left, there's not much flexibility for students to change their math pathway once placed in their first middle school math course. This leads to groups of students being tracked in all courses, leading to a very narrow ending point, typically calculus. We are proposing new pathways so all students have opportunities to branch out like that tree on the right. Students will have a strong foundation in the trunk, and then we propose to provide more choice and more options like the many branches of this tree. In the medical field, there's always a need to change technology as new illnesses arise. Ideas, medicine, equipment, and practices are constantly evolving. That makes sense, right? If there's something better that doctors can do or use to keep people healthy, then they continuously make adjustments. Here, you see an operating room from the early 1900s and an operating room of today. Much has changed. Now let's consider classrooms in the early 1900s when our current system of public education was created by the Committee of 10. On the left, you see that classroom. On the right is how a number of classrooms are set up today. However, in the classroom, our current system looks just like the old days and has not changed much. As you can see, students are seated in rows and there wasn't much opportunity to move around and apply the math. The bright picture is our current reality, still seated in rows. Changes are made in other careers in order to provide more access and opportunity. In education, we need to continuously reflect and make changes to meet the needs of our current and future students. So this picture is what we envision. Students should have the opportunity to engage in discourse and share their ideas and their strategies. Mathematics is a social endeavor that helps us understand the world as we learn and grow. And so math education should be embraced as one of the major elements needed to best prepare youth for the challenges of not just today, but for tomorrow. We are working to prepare the students currently enrolled in our schools for an ever-evolving future, and we need to follow the needs and requests of the groups we are preparing children for, post-secondary education and careers. Both groups are asking for deeper experiences, more explicit connections with math to real-world problems. We need to ensure that we more successfully engage youth in the touch points that will empower them to be more successful in their future, which requires some rethinking of our methods and our models. The change is continuous and it's hard to predict. If we had that vision into the future, we would automatically change our current behaviors and investments to best fit the need. But looking back, we can see how quickly things have changed. The 80s were the introduction to household computers. Some people went to college and graduated in the early 90s with an electronic typewriter. Personal computers were not a regular thing until 25 years ago, around 1996. In the 90s, some bag phones started appearing in certain circles. Pagers were popular and soon flip phones were commonly used. Eventually, the Palm Pilot and phone combined to create the smartphone. And even I bought and used the early versions of the BlackBerry just a little over 10 years ago. Now, partially due to the pandemic, you can find hundreds of articles on smartphone addiction. Over the past 5 years, we have seen a huge surge in how we use social media, how the big data and marketing has changed in our digital use, how shopping has gone more and more online. So as we think about changes in the mathematics classroom, it is important to keep our eye on a fundamental goal of elementary and secondary education, preparing our students for the future. One future option for students is higher education. We recognize it is critical to improve students' opportunity at colleges and universities. And to that end, we have already begun to work closely with the Virginia's institutions and have planned outreach to out-of-state universities. So how will we assure your students are admitted to colleges as the competition seems to grow? Holding direct meetings with admission officers supported by academic departments to discuss the changing student experience. All colleges and universities of admission folks whose role is to understand their state or region. The VMPI work reflects the evolving changes in degree program requirements at colleges and universities. The shift from calculus to the data science and quantitative reasoning skills creates additional opportunities for students. A student's desire to enroll in advanced placement, IB programs, and dual enrollment courses are all supported by the VMPI plan and align with higher education's desire to have students who can think deeply about math, think about math outside of the confines of the mathematics course, make connections between mathematics and other areas of study, and to critically think and reason mathematically. See, math outcomes should meet the needs of Virginian youth no matter their path. Math is vital for everyone. This includes various careers right out of high school, household needs, including finance, military expectations when they are pushing for STEM-capable youth to meet their changing technical needs. Math Pathways is for everyone so that they can begin to see themselves as math literate. We need to change how people perceive math so that they can see how it fits into their everyday lives and hopefully become inspired to see how these skills meet their needs. Math is for everyone. And so our pathway-focused mathematics concepts are designed to offer rigorous content that can prepare all students for future educational and job opportunities and for participation in a data-driven society. To provide high-quality instruction from highly trained teachers who are well-prepared and meet diverse student needs, to pair with student supports that empower students and families to make informed decisions and support success. So now Brian will explain the pathway-focused mathematics concepts in more detail.
Thank you, Michelle. Previous webinars in this series have focused on the foundational and the essential concepts courses. And I encourage you to go back and listen to hear more about those topics that are covered in those red and black boxes that Brendan also referenced tonight. In this session, we're going to dig deeply into the wide variety of choices the students have in that tall gray box on the right, and how the career clusters are important in that course development. This is where the broadening of the tree metaphor that Michelle shared with us comes into play. The VMPI proposal is a K-12 package that builds. The early courses are named foundational and essential because they are just that. They're providing the prerequisite skills, the trunk of the tree, to move forward into the more specialized courses. All of that content is required. The question, what do all students need to know, is the driver behind the choices made at those earlier levels. But once a student completes the work from essential concepts, they will be prepared to explore all of the options available in the pathway-focused courses. These are designed to be taken in any order with only very limited prerequisites, sequences such as pre-calculus to calculus. The essential concepts courses are going to prepare students to jump directly into pre-calculus or to explore one of the other equally rigorous courses that would be available to students. These are not lesser than courses or remedial courses, but rather different branches of mathematics that students can explore. I first want to be clear about what's remaining. When Michelle mentioned that the current options for students using the metaphor of the pine tree is one that narrows towards calculus, we want to be really clear. Calculus is a part of the VMPI plan. Although this is not the pathway for all students that they may wish to pursue, it is a pathway that is appropriate for some. For those who are pursuing a calculus-based STEM field in their future, this is still present within the VMPI plan. In fact, all of the current upper level offerings are still included within the VMPI plan. Calculus, statistics, computer science, offered in AP, dual enrollment, or international baccalaureate options are included for districts that choose to provide them. Additionally, VMPI proposes to bring a quantitative reasoning offering that is currently offered at the community college level as the new dual enrollment option. So if there's something you love about the current advanced mathematics offerings, they're still included under VMPI. However, we're excited to expand the current, what is currently very narrow scope of offerings with a wide variety of additional options for students to explore other areas of mathematics that are not currently available to high school students in Virginia. Our current world requires proficiency in many other branches of mathematics, and VMPI will provide options for students to explore and pursue some of these other choices if calculus is not the area they wish to study. The half-credit modules of data science or sets and logic or geometry and design are ones that will provide districts with flexibility. They can offer these as standalone courses, or they can bundle them to continue providing full credit offerings. These bundles could be tying two mathematics courses together, such as discrete and sets and logic, or they could team teach outside of mathematics, such as combining the mathematical concepts of financial modeling with a personal finance class, or geometry and design team taught with an art teacher. So when does all of this happen? As we've discussed in previous sessions and earlier tonight, the VMPI work is working towards the every 7-year revisions of standards that would happen anyway. K through 12 math classes in Virginia are currently using the 2016 standards. The next revision is scheduled to be proposed to the State Board of Education in the 22-23 school year and to be fully implemented in the fall of 2025. The foundational essential concepts that have been discussed in previous webinars and briefly tonight would be part of that every 7-year timeline. The pathway half-credit courses we are working to roll out in a more staggered manner. This includes newly developed courses such as data science, financial modeling, and sets and logic, as well as courses that are more of a revision, such as trigonometric applications, probability and statistics, geometry, or pre-calculus. Not shown here are the full credit courses such as AP Calculus, AP Statistics, International Baccalaureate, or Dual Enrollment Quantitative Reasoning that will continue to be part of these course offerings. These growing arrows show our plans to build out these new courses in a scaled up manner. This way, by the time a course is available statewide, that we're going to have the resources, the activities, and the teacher training available to ensure that teachers are prepared to provide the highest quality mathematical experiences for students. This means that although students graduating before 2029 will not experience most of the VMPI plan, many of them could choose to have some of these options to explore these areas of mathematics that are not currently available. Once these courses are rolled out, let's explore some possible pathways that a student might take. Sophia is convinced that she wants to go to medical school. She's also in her school's STEM academy. In her junior year, she takes a data science and mathematical modeling course that is part of her biochemistry collaboration. Then in her senior year, she's feeling confident to take trigonometry and pre-calculus to feel fully prepared for calculus in her first year of college. That would be one possible pathway. But not all health pathways include college. Aiden isn't interested in a four-year college, but also wants to go into the medical field. He knows that a local tech ed program has a licensed practical nurse program that can get him into the workforce quickly after high school. Taking a mathematical modeling course and a sets and logic in his junior year could set him up nicely to take a dual enrollment quantitative reasoning in his senior year. The skills from these courses would help prepare him for the LPN program and future career. And if he does decide to eventually go to community college to pick up an RN degree, that quantitative class can transfer to his school. Arwen knows that she wants to be an engineer. Her pathway is one that our current system would serve well. And under the VMPI plan, she would have those same opportunities. A combination of trigonometry and pre-calculus, followed by calculus, and perhaps her school has a joint calc physics option that she could take in her senior year. Maya plans to become a cosmetologist. As someone pursuing direct entry into business, her counselor suggested financial modeling and sets and logic courses to help her problem solve. Each of these had aspects that she appreciated, so she followed up with additional modeling courses and a probability and statistics course that her school has centered around various applications and games. Again, a student who doesn't really connect through middle school with her math classes, but now finds appreciation for mathematics that seems like something she can actually use. We have looked at several options, but there are a lot more. Each of the 17 career clusters has a wide range of direct entry, college, trade school, or military occupations that students could pursue. We strive to ensure that all students have access to mathematics that's relevant to their goals. But not everyone is ready to know what they want to do when they're 16. But throughout the K through 10 experience, teachers are going to flag different activities to help provide guidance with their choices. Zach's teachers noticed that whenever they were doing an activity that focused on spatial reasoning or geometry, that he thrived. Through nudging of his previous teachers, he knew that he should try the geometry and design course when he had the chance. Additionally, he found the opportunities to model different situations interesting, so he took advantage of the two modeling courses that his school offered. He's uncertain what to do with his final course, but in conversation with a friend and his guidance counselor, he tried a ProbStat course that centered around sports that his school had developed. This flexibility for local districts to tailor these courses to particular interests of geographic needs is one of the hallmarks of the pathway focused standards. The new standards will encourage localities to bundle courses together or to create unique focus for the course, as long as it covers the concepts of that module. Students can specialize based on future goals or explore based on past experiences, or they can truly sample if they're uncertain. The ability for students to both specialize or sample, either one being centered around a student choice, is a real advantage of the VMPI proposal. So we've talked about these new opportunities to explore areas of mathematics that are not currently part of the Virginia curriculum. But what are these courses with titles such as Sets and Logic or Discrete Mathematics for Computing? I want to take a brief moment to show a bit of one of the first courses that may be available to some students in Virginia, data science. Data science helps tell stories. These stories inform decisions as strategies by businesses, governments, and athletic teams. But if we think about unique ways to portray large data sets, we can paint a clear picture. This image was created with 14 years of satellite data that is measuring regions that are gaining or losing water. In its raw form, it is an unrecognizable spreadsheet. There is a great deal of mathematics and technology involved in moving from a spreadsheet to an image such as this that communicates a story about the data. A data science class would explore the story that an image like this is telling. Perhaps you're already forming some questions worth exploring, such as, what is happening in Alaska? What's going on with that blue dot in the middle of Africa? Do all the blue areas have more water than the red ones, or are they just changing in a different way? If you wanted to tell a story about the amount of water rather than the change in water, how would the map look differently? But students in a data science class would not just look at someone else's stories, they would also explore how to create graphics that tell stories. Students will explore global, regional, and local data to learn mathematics necessary to translate data to tell stories, and to use technology to work with large data sets. You may have noticed that images such as these have become more and more common in the past several years. Perhaps you've seen some of this in a newspaper, a Twitter thread, or a website. The cloud-based data company Domo, in a presentation labeled Data Never Sleeps, claims that every second of every day, the world creates enough data to fill 50 new libraries of Congress. Another way to say this is that 90% of the total data ever collected has been done so in the past 2 years. Many Virginia students will have opportunities to be a part of these newly developing fields. But even for those who take other career paths, there is a need to understand the data that is even ever more pervasive in our world. VMPI is proposing to make sure that all students are prepared for this world. But that may feel really overwhelming and complicated. We said that there would be opportunities K-12 to explore all of these mathematical areas. What does this look like for younger students? Many of us created bar graphs with everyone's favorite ice cream when we were in elementary school. And bar graphs are a first step to organizing data. Our new standards will push the data science conversation forward at all levels. Elementary students could use an image such as this to try to tell an interesting story. Why is that grape as big as the orange? How big would the image of a peach be? Who are the people surveyed to create this data? How would it change with a larger sample size? Or if the sample was collected somewhere else? In middle school, there are additional questions that could be explored. Some of it in an integrated mathematics course could be tying geometric concepts with the data science. Is this scale based upon the size of the radius of the area or of the area of the circle? Does that matter? Which approach would tell a more accurate story? How would I choose the correct radius for the peach? These are types of experiences that students could have at the foundational and essential concepts level that would help guide them to consider taking a data science once they got to high school. The key skills of arithmetic and algebraic thinking are not going away. They are still important life skills. But there are so many new ways for students to explore and find patterns and problem solve that the VMPI proposal would like to make available to students in Virginia. So we talked through an example of how data science would travel through the K through 12 pathway. This would be similar in all the areas of this system for geometric or algebraic or statistical or modeling concepts. Each of these are being intentionally integrated from one grade to the next, as well as within a grade level to show that the mathematical connections in a far more intentional way than our current system. During the 3 previous webinars and in the weeks between those presentations that you have had access to the Google form to provide your comments and feedback to answer questions. Members of the VMPI and VDOE have been monitoring those questions this evening and will now answer those. Do we have any questions regarding this evening's topics?
Well, we sure do, Brian. I think we could start with some college questions because you did address those sort of earlier. So let's just reiterate. How will my child get accepted to college with these course offerings? And then just came in a second ago, how about those schools outside of Virginia who they're going to have a transcript that doesn't say explicitly Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2? How are we going to deal with that? How are we going to get colleges? How's my kid going to get in there?
Yeah, thanks, Shelley.
Anybody else?
I'll try and start, and maybe someone else can kind of chime in. The revised standards that we're currently developing in VMPI will include some of the core concepts that will prepare students for college and careers. I think Brian's kind of done a good job in talking about that tonight. And those development teams that are working to revise the standards are working closely with K-12 and with higher education staff from our business and community leaders as well. We're trying to ensure that the revisions include the knowledge and skills, the competencies, all those things that are going to be necessary for our students to be prepared for all of their post-secondary aspirations. So as we move forward, we'll continue these discussions so that we can make sure we'll be talking to higher ed folks. What are students really going to need as they move into some of these landscapes that exist at the college level? Because there's more data science, there's a lot more of different courses than have ever been available before to students. So are we preparing our students to be ready for that? And then we're also talking to admissions officers. We talked about this before, thinking about what are the requirements for entering a state college or university, and also thinking about what does that look like as students cross those state lines. So anybody else have anything further to add to that conversation? Or
I think it should be said that there are other states and localities that offer integrated mathematics in the United States. And so that is something that many colleges are already used to seeing. And just because it feels unfamiliar to us in Virginia doesn't mean that it's not already happening.
Well, funny you should say that, Brian. That sort of leads me to the next question that I found. Has this realignment happened anywhere else in the United States?
Well, I can start a little bit about some of the work that other states are doing. I think we've mentioned this in some of our previous community meetings, but we have been working in Virginia with a cohort of other states across the United States, about 23 or so states that are at different places in different pathway initiatives. And we regularly meet and share our progress. We talk about some of the work that we're doing so that we can kind of coordinate and move forward. Understanding that everybody's kind of in a different place and we're all unique states doing unique things. But I also know that there's a lot of mathematics education across the globe that's different from what we do in the United States. And I actually think that Dr. Albin might be well versed to talk about this because he actually came to the United States after having some of his education abroad. So would you like to share anything, Dr. Albin?
Certainly. Thank you so much, Tina. For me, this is a big one because when I first came to this country, I found it interesting and perhaps a little absurd to be teaching Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 to my students in high school when I taught here, because at least from where I came from before, separating math out by those specific content areas seems to be very disconnected. What VMPI does, along with some other states that are moving in a similar way, is what we're trying to do is we're trying to, if you look at the realignment, there are two big changes that are happening, and both of them is really going to put Virginia right up there with the very best schools in the world in terms of how students learn mathematics. First of all, whether it be Europe or Asia or even Africa, where I'm from, students don't learn mathematics by separate content areas because mathematics is a pure science. Everything is connected to each other. So what is happening in Virginia as we're taking a look at those early high school years who really are becoming more globally minded in how we present mathematics so that our students will be able to compete at the very highest levels. And the other thing that the other large realignment that is really strong in VMPI is if you take a look at a lot of countries, be it Germany or Finland or other countries whom we often compare ourselves to, when those students get to those last few years of high school, particularly in those places, they're starting to move toward their pathways and beyond secondary school that they might be interested in, be it engineering, be it medical field, and they start to either go to a separate school and they take math courses that align to their interests, or they do it at their base school based on the system where they are. So truthfully, if you look at what's going on in Virginia, we're starting to align, well, not align, but we're starting to look a lot more like the very best educational systems in the world with mathematics. We're always saying, what can we do better in mathematics instruction in Virginia? And we're always comparing ourselves to other countries. And this is a massive aspect, is being able to teach mathematics in a connected way and open doors beyond school. It's a great connection for students.
Thank you very much. So will students be able to pivot to other pathways if their postgraduate plans change? So I think I'm going to be a cosmetologist, and then I think, nope, better be an engineer. Can I switch?
Yeah, this question, or a similar one that has also been asked about, are high school sophomores really ready to make career decisions? Why are you making them choose so early? Those have been common questions that have come up in previous presentations to different stakeholder groups. And my answer is going to be twofold to that. If you're going to remember, specializing is just one of the approaches that these pathways offer. Some students are ready to specialize, but there's also the opportunity to sample. The combination of half credit and full credit options are going to provide a space for students who are still not sure and wanting to explore. Some college students are changing their majors, and that's always going to be the case. And personally, I would rather my child explore and experiment when they're still in the high school level rather than once they get to college, although that exploration will continue then. Additionally, our current system really asks students to make decisions much earlier. In many districts across the state, by 4th or 5th grade, students are placed into a track that doesn't really have many on or exit ramps earlier on. And so in our current narrow pine tree approach, we're already narrowing the choices much earlier, and this allows students to continually explore and sample throughout their high school experience. So I think that students will actually have a much wider range of mathematical opportunities than they currently do. But really the key to all of this is the choices that VMPI provides.
So it sounds like lots of choice, and you can make it at any time. Thank you. So I already know the answer, but I'm going to read this and everybody's going to jump in, I have a feeling. So for students who do not need mathematics for post-high school jobs and careers, do they need to complete 4 years of math in high school?
I can start on that one.
Who wants to start?
All of those 17 career clusters and the specific jobs within those broad categories, they do use mathematics. Currently, many students are frustrated when they see a need to study something that they see as irrelevant. And if I'm honest, for many people, the details of a particular skill in an algebra class probably are irrelevant in their daily lives. There are key components to these current standards that can be brought to life in a more integrated way in the foundational and essential concepts courses. And then if a student has the choices later on, they can more narrowly focus on those areas that are going to be part of their future. Working with guidance counselors would be probably one of the keys to this process. And we're already beginning to develop detailed guides, possibly even in the form of an app that students and guidance counselors and parents could work together and answer a couple of questions to help provide them that flexible guidance that would help them make their decisions about where they would want to go. In that example of Maya, the future cosmetologist, she might not find inspiring mathematics in their senior year of high school in our current system. But with VMPI, we're really confident that the options that are available to her would be ones where she would never have to say, when am I going to use this? But students would be inspired to push themselves to explore areas that they know are going to be relevant, or to explore areas that might surprise them in their relevance towards their future.
You know, Brian, I'll jump in there. This is true not only for jobs and careers, but also at home. And if you think about it, digesting media or just being an informed citizen.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone is a math person. That's one of our mantras. Everyone is a math person. Many people just don't know it yet because they've not seen the full picture of mathematics. And VMPI really has the goal of making that full picture of mathematics available to all students.
Yeah, and I'll chime in just because Shelley told us to, but no, I'm teasing. But I do really look at our society the last several years, and Michelle talked about, how much, data is now available all around us, how much, our online shopping, everything that we do is so data driven. And we have to be helping our students to be more informed, to be able to digest all that data. Because it's not now about finding the data, it's about digesting the data and making sense of it and analyzing it. And I think that's a very important thing that we have to think about when we're helping our students in mathematics, and something that we're working on for the modernization piece. So thank you, everybody, for chiming in on that one.
Yes, thanks very much. So are there going to be enough teachers for all these options? And are they going to be prepared to serve our kids like this?
Yes, we're aware that that's going to continue to be a challenge. Mathematics is one of the areas where there is a teacher shortage nationwide. That's also true in Virginia. Additionally, some of our teachers currently may not feel prepared to cover some of the new topics in one of the Pathways courses, or they may not be equipped to present material in a more integrated manner in an essential concepts course if we were asked them to do that today. Professional development and training are really essential to make this work happen. And it doesn't matter how good the standards are if our teachers are unprepared to implement them. 2 years before these standards are even proposed to the board, and 4 years before they'll be fully implemented, we're already developing professional development teams to begin the work with districts and college education programs to ensure that teachers have all those resources that they need. Earlier, we showed how many of these pathway focused courses will be piloted for several years before they get rolled out to the whole state. The resources that are developed and refined during the pilot phase are going to be made available across the state to make sure that everyone has access to those proven materials and lesson ideas. One other thing is that support for large districts in Northern Virginia or the Tidewater region is probably very different what's needed there than in a small district in South Central or Southwest Virginia. And we're really preparing to target our support for each region and each district size and demographic to provide equitable access for all students. Not every school will be able to provide every pathway for every course every year. Some schools might rotate what their offerings are. Our experience with this year has helped us to scale up virtual learning resources through collaboration between districts or options such as Virtual Virginia. And we want to use that and build on what we've learned this year to make sure that all students have access to all the courses we need, and that all districts and school level personnel are provided the support and the resources and the training so that they're feeling confident to do this work.
Thanks, Brian. The next question sort of just goes along with that. And so I just want to be real clear to make sure that we understand. We've got a number of comments from people who don't believe that our teachers are capable of handling this. And it concerns me greatly because I work with an amazing set of educators and I know that they are able, and that if we provide them with the appropriate professional development, they can do this. And so many, many questions come in that just, how are you going to ensure that teachers can support this? So can we just reiterate one more time, how are we going to make sure our teachers can do this? Because I don't doubt for a minute they can, but I'm an educator and I believe in the people I work with.
Well, I'll start. I know Brian's talked a little bit about, some of that already in terms of thinking about professional learning. Teachers are great collaborators, and they are able to share strategies. They share the things that they're working on. The past several years, we have become great collaborators because we've been thrown into a situation where we've had to learn how to do new things in different ways. And so I have great confidence in our teachers in moving forward to support a new curriculum. But we also are working with teams, as Brian mentioned, to develop professional learning opportunities to make sure teachers have that content knowledge that they might need, especially in some of these new courses that we've talked about tonight. We're also looking at licensure requirements and really looking at some of the standards changes in light of what teachers are currently required to take for courses in college. And do we need to re-examine that? Are there any changes that might be needed? We're working with and meeting currently with teacher preparation program representatives from our higher education partners to make sure that those courses that teachers are taking, our pre-service teachers, are adequately preparing them for the work that we're looking at. Because there is a little bit of a shift in how we want students to be experiencing mathematics in the classrooms in K-12. And we do need to make sure that we are working very distinctly with all different aspects of the work to make sure that our K-12 teachers, our higher education folks are all on the same page. And I'm very encouraged by the collaboration that we have in Virginia between our K-12 and higher education partners. It's very unique, especially in talking to some of these other states that we're collaborating with. We have a wonderful collaborative partnership, and we very much value that and hope that will continue as we move forward with the initiative.
Anyone else have any thoughts to add?
Yeah, I would just jump on that a little bit too. Tina mentioned that we've learned a lot over this past year about how to collaborate in new ways. I want to lessen anybody's fears who would say, oh no, I don't want to collaborate like I did this year, because everything has been done on the fly, right? Like, that's been a very stressful time for all teachers, and please go out and thank your local teacher for all the work they've done here this year. We really are working ahead of the game on this to make sure that the professional development and the collaboration tools and resources and spaces, ways for them to share their information, their knowledge, their training is going to be a long range integrated thing, which is why we're talking about this so soon, so early, because we really want to make sure that teachers are prepared well in advance, not building as they are on the fly, like many of us are right now this year.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else? Great, thank you. I knew you could handle all of that. Let's end with the calculus thought, because that's one of our favorite classes in mathematics. And while it is the top of the pine tree, it is just one of the many branches of the new trees that we're looking for. But are these classes really going to be able to prepare students fully to take calculus when they're in high school?
Well, I'll start because I know that we've been working very hard in our essential concepts standards of learning development to really think about what does it look like for a student to be prepared to take calculus. Because it's a varied amount of work to think about. We have these different pathways now. So what are those essential skills that all students need to know? But we still, of course, want to have the pathway to calculus. So we know we aren't going to take these standards to the Board of Education until 2023. But we have started, as someone mentioned early on in the game, to start preparing for that, knowing that we want to make sure that we're talking to different stakeholders and making sure that the content that we include in the courses that we're developing does fully prepare students for calculus. So we actually have had quite a few conversations with other educational organizations. We've actually just in the past week or two talked to the International Baccalaureate Organization about what do they look for prerequisite knowledge as they're preparing students for courses in higher mathematics. So all of that work lends itself to really making sure that we're doing our due diligence and we're doing our homework in developing these courses. So we definitely are trying to make sure that we're touching base with all sorts of different entities and to ensure that our students are ready for whatever post-secondary, aspirations that they're looking forward to.
We are right close to 7:30. We want to honor the time that we've told people we'll spend tonight. I want you to know that as the communications chair, I have the document with your questions and comments open on my computer at all times because I keep returning to it to see what other new things have come in that we need to make sure we address. So know that if we didn't answer your question tonight or in the previous ones, we will definitely be using your input to change, modify, consider all of the things that modify this proposal because it's not done. This is not set in stone. Your feedback has great value to us. So please continue to use the tiny URL. And you're welcome to email our staff at VDOE if you have some kind of question that you need to be answered directly. So thank you very much for being here this evening. Anyone else have a closure?
Just thank you for tuning in to these 4 community informational sessions. Your feedback is very valuable. It's very important to us, and we look to continue to accept your feedback as we develop the initiative. So as Shelley said, that tiny URL will continue to be open probably for a little bit while longer, so you can submit additional questions, but you can always email our staff at vdoe.mathematics@doe.virginia.gov. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Dr. Alban. Thank you, Shelley, for your time tonight as well.
Our pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for